Hi, and welcome to Thete Gaming. It's been a while, it's been a long time actually. Just going to be doing commentary pieces on aspects of Warhammer 40k and Age of Sigmar for the foreseeable future, for reasons I may go into in another video, but if it seems sensible, I'm not going to go into here. But in this video, I'm going to be discussing quite a few of the new things coming online, particularly for 40k, but some things for Age of Sigmar as well. But in this one, I was prompted by the new Tau toys being previewed. I want to talk about the interaction of rules with invulnerable saves in 40k. There's going to be a bit of a theme for the next few videos where I want to talk about how core rules have been sidelined by increasingly common rules that used to be scarce. So in 40k, your invulnerable save is of course the save you get which cannot be affected by armour penetration. So if you have a 5-up invulnerable save, then you are guaranteed at least a 1/3 chance to save a normal wound, which most wounds should be. This obviously means a certain sink of points in the unit that get these, because it's very powerful. If the ability is largely across the board in your army, you'll be paying quite a lot of points for that facility. So then when you get a unit that ignores them, they are basically cancelling a lot of the points value of your army out. And the two ways this happens is with mortal wounds and abilities that just straight up ignore invulnerable saves. Both of these used to be quite uncommon. So arguably, not that big a deal, doesn't really unbalance the game because it hardly ever happens. It created a sort of paper, rock, scissors element to games, which isn't ideal, but doesn't break the system. But then we have the announcement of the Tau railgun. And this is just one of many. And I'm sure we've all seen it. The gun of choice, no doubt, on your heavy support units. 72-inch range. Strength 14. AP -6, which might as well mean no saves at all. D3 plus 6 damage. So the variable bit's really small there, and it does an additional 3 mortal wounds. So the potential damage is not only huge, but the actual damage also is not even swingy. You are guaranteed 10 wounds with this thing. It might be 12. So definitely not swingy. And it ignores invulnerable saves. So that, with the combination of -6 AP, it may as well just say you do not get a save with this weapon. It will almost certainly hit on 3s. It can re-roll the hit. It will wound most things on 2s, even most tanks. It will delete transports with a single shot, and you will have quite a few in the list. I'm guessing anyway. It's not even an option for obscure units. The units that you can have it with are the units you would be taking anyway. You're going to be packing a few of them. And it isn't that the gun is super powerful that's the main issue for me. Like, people will look at it and just instinctively feel it's too much. It's like, wow, I know, that's like what that does. But then, you know, for me, it's the ignoring invulnerable saves. Because, I mean, it's heavy 1. But instead of heavy 1, it could have been a slightly weaker melter type gun with more shots. That's neither here nor there. In the grand scheme of things, the railgun, in other respects, is, you know, a hammerhead with one of these, all other things being equal, you could argue is basically the same as a Drukhari Ravager with 3 Dart Lancers, couldn't you? But the fact that it denies you a save of any kind is what hurts. Ironically, the mortal's wounds will actually give some sorts... The mortal wounds are the least scary, because someone like Grey Knights have at least some chance of avoiding some of the damage. When you've got mortal wounds that are less effective than the normal damage, how bizarre is that? But this is one thing in one codex. Or will be when the codex comes out. But it got me thinking, there's an increasing amount of this sort of thing creeping in. Like recently, I used my Drukhari against the Invincible Death Watch list with crap loads of dreadnoughts. Wasn't very nice. Invincible against my meagre skills anyway. I'm sure top tournament players would have some way of dealing with it. I've got several armies. I've got nothing to deal with it. Very nasty. But, tell you what was also nasty, was the Calidus Assassin. That was fun. Not come across one of those before. They're fun. So this thing can be in deep strikes, not even on the table, and yet it has this ability that means when you try and use a stratagem on a 4-up, it costs an extra command point. Even when it's not on the battlefield, apparently. It's in deep strike. I'm still paying extra command points. That's nice. That's lovely, that. And all Imperium armies can use that. Then you have the mortal wound, what was it now? Sorry, that's the invulnerable save shutting off bit. That is the bit that got me, yeah. So it was costing me a load of command points. Then it comes in, not 9 inches away. No. D3 plus 6 might be 9 inches away, could be 4. In reality, probably 6 or 7. So it appears close to, and it did. appeared quite close to my Archon, charged in, got the charge in because it was quite a low one, and then just said, your Archon is dead. Huh? Your Archon's dead. I've got him 2 up invulnerable save. No, you ain't. I'm shutting off invulnerable saves. Oh. You know, and as I say, all Imperium armors can use that. 100 points? Then you have the Mortal Wound Frenzy of Thousand Suns. Chaos Demon armies that can ignore invulnerable saves as well. Necron Catan, you know, have strategy. I mean, Nightbringer just automatically does it. But in general, they can do that. You look around and you start to see there's a lot of armies that have options now to bypass invulnerable saves. And the point of the invulnerable save is that it's not. It is the invulnerable save. It's the thing you have that can face anything. And there are other armies that only have those invulnerable saves to give them any chance. Like armies that are really small. You're like, look at it, there's not very much in that army, is there? But for the fact you can almost think of them as having way more wounds because they're so difficult to kill. And the reason they're so difficult to kill is because of the invulnerable saves. And the problem is the way you can change the dynamic of the game with what just appears to be a cool rule on a particular unit or a weapon. And it's niche and you don't come across it that often, but then it spreads. Like imagine a spearhead Tau detachment packed out with railguns against a Custodes army. What are you going to do? Invulnerable saves are a core rule and have been since when I first started playing 40k on and off about 20 years ago. And that was quite near the beginning, I think. The idea of them is like a last line of defense that marks out a particularly tough unit. It's a sign that this thing should not be easy to kill. You're going to have to put some serious effort into killing this thing. Okay, sure, when it's a 6-up invulnerable save like Adeptus Sororitas tanks or something, it's fairly worthless. But generally it's either 4-up or 5-up, isn't it? It's what allows certain units to face a barrage of Meltifire and maybe live to tell the tale. And even if they don't, they will have taken a lot to the face that has saved their comrades. And the unit that has it either pays a very pretty price in points or will have other downsides to compensate that similar units may not get. Like if you can think of as well as Custodes as Death Guard. Ironically, Death Guard Terminators are going up in points this weekend. I might think that's a bit much. A typical result of Games Workshop's method of points tuning, which is to raise the cost of ubiquitous units in tournaments and lower the cost of the units that they think are cool but people just aren't taking. No thought for maybe the presence or absence of units has more to do with the way 9th edition has to be played and what other units are available that can do the same job in that army. But I digress, that's a whole other topic. The issue is that Terminators in general get invulnerable saves. Death Guard Terminators 4-up invulnerable saves. Just as with the Astartes units with Storm Shields or the Custodes. That's a beefy save against melter-type weapons, isn't it? And you are paying the points for it. More points now for Death Guard. 55 points for a Death Shroud. That hurts. But okay, you think, I'm as hard as nails. I'll just have to drop something somewhere else in the army, get rid of a few, like, you know, Poxwalkers or something. I want my Death Shroud. They look like Grim Reapers and they strike a similar fear into my opponents. But then your opponent says, it's a nice invulnerable save you've got there. Be a shame if anything were to happen to it. And like I say, I get a certain level of paper, rock, scissors can occur. All armies, in order to be unique, need certain characteristics, strengths and weaknesses. Of course, sometimes someone's strength will coincide with your weakness or vice versa. But bypassing invulnerable saves used to be niche. And in fact, I think at one time it used to not exist, but it certainly used to be niche. And now much less so. And I wonder if there's even been a debate about this amongst the rules makers. Have they consciously decided that, do you know what, we don't consider invulnerable saves to be that important these days and we're not actually building much of a points cost into them. And so adding in abilities that ignore them isn't unbalancing or anything. Do they think that? Or have they just randomly increased the number of such abilities without really thinking about it because the range is so large? I'd be quite interested in knowing that and in knowing how any debate has actually gone. Because we're only really about halfway through 9th edition releases here, aren't we? Like there's still Tau, which we now know a bit about. There's Aldari still, which is really Craft Worlds, Harlequins and everything else. There's Chaos Space Marines still. There's Chaos Demons, both flavours of Knights, Tyranids. The rest of the Space Marine and any other supplements, like World Eaters for Chaos Space Marines as well, still planned, I think. You know, plenty more scope for even more of this. There we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. And until next time, I'll see you later.